What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on Yahoo, where we have a 12-team half-point PPR mock with the first overall pick, and it should be a good one. And as always, if you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, let us hear it in the comment section with any questions you guys might have. And a quick reminder, if you guys haven't already, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. It has everything you could want at a great value. Top 150 overall player rankings, standard and PPR formats, individual player bios, tiers, projections, along with general fantasy advice. All those details in the description. But with that being said, let's turn our attention to the draft because we are first overall. But thankfully, this one is a no-brainer regardless of the format. Christian McCaffrey is the 101 across all redraft leagues, no matter the size, pretty much no matter the scoring format. The guy is an absolute stud. Standard, half-point PPR, full-point PPR especially. The offense will still run through Christian McCaffrey. He is, the main guy there in Carolina, regardless of the quarterback situation, as we have seen now for a couple of years. And the second pick, to nobody's surprise, is Dalvin Cook as well. Pretty much unanimously, the first and second picks off the board. Then you see a Derrick Henry, followed by an Alvin Kamara. Derrick Henry is probably going to be a pretty safe top 4, top 5 type of selection. Usually you might see Saquon Barkley be that third overall selection, maybe a Kamara, again, in PPR type of formats. And when it comes to Kamara, the only thing that it's preventing me from saying he should be, the second pick overall, the third pick overall, is again the quarterback situation. If we know for a fact that it's Jameis Winston in New Orleans, then give me all that Kamara stock. But in the meantime, if it's Taysom Hill, I am a little bit worried about Kamara. So that's the only thing that I continue to caution people about when it comes to Alvin Kamara, regardless of how talented he is, because the situation does play into it in terms of the opportunities that he will have compared to years prior with Drew Brees. Then after Kamara, you see Jonathan Taylor ahead of Saquon Barkley. That's a bit interesting, I would say, considering that again, Jonathan Taylor, probably a little bit more standard suited running back, and he's got a backfield of Marlon Mack, even though I'm not all that worried about him. However, there will be some volume going his way. And then obviously Naheem Hines, the pass catching running back for the Indianapolis Colts, that kind of handles that role. So again, Jonathan Taylor, not quite as dual threat as a Saquon Barkley or even Ezekiel Elliott, or probably even an Aaron Jones, but that's just my opinion. Again, if this was a standard scoring format, I'd have no problem seeing Jonathan Taylor go at that point in time. Then you see a Saquon Barkley, followed by Ezekiel Elliott, Nick Chubb. Again, this is half-point PPR scoring. I realize that, but Aaron Jones above Nick Chubb seems like that should be the pick that's being made almost, 9 out of 10 times. There's other running backs as well, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, who I'm becoming more and more bullish on from everything that we're hearing coming out of Washington in terms of his involvement in that offense. So that's kind of good to hear as a guy that can really take that next big step. We'll see who falls to us here at the end of the second round, because we do have quite a weight. That is obviously the big downside of having the first overall selection. You pretty much have to wait, 23 more picks until your next selection, obviously depending on the size of your leagues. But either way, it is a little bit tough. You're going to see a lot of guys that you were probably thinking in terms of great values being sniped from you, being taken away from you. So it's going to be, a situation where we got to do the most with what we have. And Austin Eckler goes off the board. Let's quickly look at these draft results. I do want to pull up the draft board here. So Aaron Jones went a run on 9 straight running backs. Then you see Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams. You could really rank these 3 wide receivers any which way you wanted. I would have no problem with that. Then Travis Kelce with the first pick in the second round. That's a strategy. Kelce is a guy that's going to either go at the end of the first, early second. You're getting that wide receiver at the tight end position, which is so important, really kind of differentiates you there. Then Cam Akers, a guy that's really edging to be an end of the first round selection, early second round selection with the improved offense in LA with Matthew Stafford. Then you see Austin Eckler, one of our favorite players, DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Gibson, who we mentioned previously, Joe Mixon, and then probably the biggest surprise, well, actually not probably, for sure the biggest surprise up until this point, Pat Mahomes in the middle of the second round. I continue to say this, guys, I realize that Mahomes is the big name. He's the QB1. He is absolutely on another planet when it comes to the quarterback position. Do not take quarterbacks in the second round. I honestly wouldn't probably even take a quarterback in the third round. You can get such great value in the later rounds, obviously assuming that it is a one quarterback league. If it's a two quarterback league, then that's a completely different, conversation to have. But in all these drafts that you see, we're doing the normal, the regular, the most popular one quarterback leagues. So that's why you're seeing us, go other more important positional players, running back, wide receivers, tight ends, even ahead of quarterbacks. But hey, let's turn our attention now to the wide receiver position. And here I'm going Calvin Ridley, pretty simple. I've said this before, but with Ridley now being the main guy in Atlanta, he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver. I'm kind of shocked that he fell to us. I think he's a tremendous value. He was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th wide receiver off the board. And now here we've got a decision to make, but honestly, it's not all that difficult of a one for me because I'm going Michael Thomas here. I want to get another great PPR type of wide receiver, kind of pair him up with Calvin Ridley, who's maybe a little bit more standard suited, but either way, we've got Christian McCaffrey. That is the beautiful thing of getting a stud like Christian McCaffrey that can kind of carry your running back group. You can go wide receiver heavy afterwards because, look, as much as I love some of these running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chris Carson, and I'm a big fan of both of those guys. I think that the value is a little bit better for the wide receivers, especially guys that can both arguably finish as the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football. And then we can address the running back position, our RB2, later on in the what would be 4th round. Now, you can make the case, oh, Michael Thomas was a reach, blah, blah, blah. But, looking at the other wide receivers that are going after him, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen, okay, that's a great value pick there. But Chris Godwin, with all those wide receivers in Tampa Bay, that is an awful pick. That's probably the worst pick in this entire draft so far. Terry McLaurin, again, there's a lot of different targets there. I'm not saying he's not going to be good, but I think the upside for Michael Thomas is higher, especially in full point PPR scoring or really any type of PPR scoring, in my opinion, which is the case here. But now we're seeing a little bit of a run on these running backs. DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, good value in the middle of the 3rd. Najee Harris, then Miles Sanders. It's kind of shocking to me that Chris Carson continues to be available. The guy should be drafted, I will say this now, in August, in September, as early as the 2nd round. That's how high you should be, obviously assuming 100% healthy for Chris Carson. Then, again, we're starting to see maybe some strange picks here. George Kittle, but take note that it's a full round after Travis Kelce, so that's good value, in my opinion, for George Kittle. It could be Darren Waller. It doesn't matter. It's an entire round after Travis Kelce. Then Josh Allen, again, another pick that I can't really endorse because you're going to see, we're going to have guys like probably Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts available to us in future rounds. And for that reason, it seems like a bit of a reach to go a quarterback at that point in time. But hey, that team also lands Chris Carson, which is just absolutely amazing value. And I continue to say this, Chris Carson isn't going to be available ADP-wise in the 4th round come August and September. So take advantage of that value while you still can. Then Allen Robinson in the 4th round, great value as well. Darren Waller on top of that. I love that value for Waller. Again, he's pretty much in the exact same situation as Kelce, the number 1 wide receiver on his team, even though he's a tight end. I guess with Kelce, you could argue that Tyreek Hill is there, but either way, both guys have huge upside when it comes to their yardage and their touchdowns. And Waller I actually have as my number 2 tight end on the season across all formats. Then Julio Jones goes. Great value in my opinion for Julio Jones. I'm kind of, looking at this list of players that are still available. And if I had it my way right now, let's quickly sort through the running backs to see if there's any great value. Myles Gaskin is probably the highest ranked running back left on my board. Then there is a bit of a drop off. You could argue Mike Davis. I do like a late flyer in James Robinson, but I feel like that would be a reach at this point in time, even though we do have to wait a while until making another selection. Wide receivers, there's a lot of tempting choices. This is where we're going to hit peak value for these wide receivers, right around here in the 4th round. You see Robert Woods still there, Deontay Johnson, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett. So a lot of guys that I really like, and probably what I might do here is, since I know for a fact that if I don't draft the tight end that I really want, who is, TJ Hawkinson, right now, he probably won't be available to me in 23 more picks. So I think I'm going to have to pull the trigger on TJ Hawkinson being one of these selections. And of course, as soon as I say that, TJ Hawkinson gets drafted. Well, okay, so that made our selection a lot easier. So now we're going to go Myles Gaskin is one of those selections, like I mentioned. And then afterwards, probably Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp. Who do you have ranked higher? I think that's, tomato, tomato type of situation. Both guys, great talents. And, in this case, I'll go Robert Woods, but it's, again, flip of a coin type of situation. I like Woods and Kupp more than Deontay Johnson. In this case, I like them more than a Tyler Lockett. You see Lamar Jackson just got drafted. He's someone that I really like as well. But, after kind of getting sniped with TJ Hawkinson, I figured I'll, probably take a chance in quarterback later on, now take advantage of the value at these other positions. But, man, I really like the value on TJ Hawkinson with the pick right before me. Again, all things considered, Lamar Jackson, really good value as well. But I'm trying to build a little bit more of a well-rounded roster right now. Unfortunately, Kyle Pitts is selected here in the 5th round. I did not expect to see him drafted this early, honestly. But it should be the case when you think about it, because Pitts is probably the 5th overall tight end redraft wise this season, with Julio Jones now gone from Atlanta. But a lot of platforms have him ranked relatively low, probably to the point where you would think we could have gotten him in the 6th round, which is kind of what I was hoping for. But again, this is what happens. It's always different depending on the people that you draft with. So in this case, kudos to the person that drafted Kyle Pitts, because they realize they are getting a tremendous value at a position that's extremely important. So unfortunately, we can't get Kyle Pitts. There's going to be a drop-off at that position on our roster. But in terms of the team that we have so far, let's quickly look at it. We're sitting pretty in terms of wide receivers, especially Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, Robert Woods as our flex. Then we've got Christian McCaffrey kind of anchoring the running back position. Myles Gaskin, to me, was the best available choice left at that point in time. So I'm not too mad about it. Obviously, there's a big drop-off between McCaffrey and Gaskin, but it could have been worse. So again, not fretting that too much. I will probably get James Robinson later on, kind of as a safety pick, but that's kind of where my head is at this point in time. Other picks after that Kyle Pitts selection, Kyler Murray, great value on Kyler Murray. And this is what I mean. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes go 2-3 rounds earlier than Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray, which shouldn't be the case. If all these guys stay healthy and you take into account what Murray and Lamar Jackson can do with their legs, they should not be drafted that much later than Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. So the fact that you're seeing this, and you will continue to see this because, obviously Josh Allen finished as the number 1 quarterback last season. So there's some recency bias there, and people are going to favor him probably as the number 2 quarterback. No issue there. I have no problems with that. But that just means that Jackson and Kyler Murray are going to be good values for someone that gets them in the 5th or in the 6th round. Then you see Tyler Lockett, again, good value there. Mark Andrews, Deontay Johnson, good value on him, followed by a run on running backs. ETN, Chase Edmonds, Mike Davis, Melvin Gordon. Now, if you ask me, I can't for the life of me understand why Travis Etienne is going ahead of James Robinson. But hey, that's apparently, the trend nowadays with just falling in love with these rookie running backs no matter what, even though the situation isn't ideal for ETN there. The Jaguars have said James Robinson is going to stay heavily involved, and ETN's more of a pass catching guy, so I can't really trust the situation there. I'd much rather have James Robinson, and I'd definitely much rather draft James Robinson ahead of Travis Etienne. So another pick that kind of just sticks out here and I'm not a big fan of. Then Chase Edmonds, good value on Mike Davis, all things considered. Melvin Gordon, then Kenny Golladay. Now let's quickly take a look at the best players available. And there's a chance that James Robinson might not fall to us. I'm kind of looking at Dallas Goedert as a target tight end. If he falls to us, he'll probably be one of my selections. Again, I believe that he's got, out of all the tight ends that are left, the highest upside. We can take a flyer on some other tight ends later on, and maybe we even go with a little bit of a stack of Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts at the quarterback position. We'll see if it happens. It's probably going to be a little bit tough to do because, if we want James Robinson, then we're going to have to say bye to one of those options, and the choice is made for us. Jalen Hurts is drafted here in the 6th round. I'm not sure if it's an auto pick type of situation. It might be, or it might just be some people identifying huge upside for a player like Jalen Hurts, who's got a big floor and a big ceiling with rushing yards. So for that reason, again, kudos to them. There's some really savvy drafters here by the looks of it. But that's what we want. We want this to be the closest thing to the real deal come your actual draft day. James Robinson gets sniped. So this is kind of turning into a tough situation. But again, I continue to say this, be prepared for these situations. If you've got that first, second pick, maybe even third pick, it's going to be a long while until you pick again. Same with the 11th, the 12th overall, again, depending on the size of your leagues, obviously. Then you see Ronald Jones, someone I was also considering, Justin Herbert. So quarterbacks going off the board pretty quickly here. But I guess the good news is that only by the looks of it, 2 other teams other than us don't have a quarterback. So we can wait on that position because at this point in time, I'm looking at the quarterback position. I think it's nothing too crazy in terms of guys that are great values or leaps and bounds above others. I guess Aaron Rodgers is still there, but I really like Matthew Stafford as well. Here I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert as my first selection. So we've got the tight end position taken care of. Let's quickly look if there's some other, players that we really like here, whether it's wide receiver. If not, I'll probably go quarterback, but we'll see. I see an Odell. I see a Courtland Sutton who's pretty tempting. Tyler Boyd. I'm probably going the direction of Courtland Sutton here. Yes, the quarterback situation could be better, no doubt about it, but I think Courtland Sutton still has the highest upside out of all those wide receivers in Denver. And again, we can address the quarterback position afterwards because there's not all that many teams that need to get a quarterback. So it's going to be pretty easy to get a good value on that position. Let's see if there is anyone on running backs that we kind of might have missed. I'm not a big fan of Damian Harris in PPR or Javonte Williams, David Johnson, A.J. Dillon, Kenyon Drake. We can go down and down the list, but there's nobody that really jumps out that would have been a candidate at our selection spot. So for that reason, I think we, all things considered, made 2 all right picks. Dallas Goedert is going to be a tight end that I'm continuing per the schemes of Philadelphia, how they've done things in the past, is going to stay heavily involved in that offense. Yes, I realize Devonta Smith is now there, but Goddard is the most experienced guy. He's taken over that number 1 tight end spot. Zach Ertz is now the backup. We'll see if he's even on the team. Fast forward a month or 2 from now. But afterwards, again, let's quickly look at the draft results. You see Curtis Samuel, Noah Fant, Leonard Fournette, Michael Carter. Not a bad pick on Michael Carter. Odell Beckham, Jamar Chase, good value. I could have probably gone with Jamar Chase as well instead of Cortland Sutton, but maybe we got a little bit panicked looking at the clock. So just something to point out there. Now we're going to mark up some quarterbacks. We're going to mark up some good value picks because you're going to see, again, a lot of auto picks at this point in time. We've got the majority of our roster already taken care of, and we can start to analyze the whole team overall. We're going to, again, add a quarterback, and preferably I'd like to get Matthew Stafford. We'll see if that's meant to be because I'd like to have a quarterback wide receiver stack, and that would get the job done with Woods and with Matthew Stafford. And afterwards, just go best available player. We definitely could use running back depth. So that is the next thing on the list. Just trying to find depth at that position. And, looking at the options, probably our best bet, if I had to pick one, is Javonte Williams, I guess. But it's going to be a running back by committee, and it's going to be just a pain completely. Jamal Williams, depending on if you believe the hype coming out of Detroit, other guys, Kenyon Drake, he's going to be more of a pass-catching guy. I'm not in love with the situation for the Raiders. I really don't know how much Drake will be used. I think it's just this lose-lose situation for Drake and for Josh Jacobs, honestly. So, man, I really hate the running backs that are left is the takeaway message here. We'll see, though. I'm hoping that we get a good quarterback coming our way here in the 8th round. And again, you're seeing the last couple of picks being all defenses. This is why we're not going to continue this for too much longer because a lot of people have gone to auto picks. So you're going to see defenses, you're going to see kickers, and there's no really breaking down for those positions. You just play the matchups. You go with the waiver wire. That's why whenever, I do mock drafts, I kind of ignore those positions unless I'm doing the entire thing and I have to draft a kicker in a defense. But again, my advice there is just stream those positions based on matchups, which is what the majority of people will tell you. But again, right now we're in a good position to get at least Matthew Stafford, if memory serves correct. There's also Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, Joe Burrow. Tannehill, he's got some upside with Julio Jones there. I'm thinking if we could potentially, go another direction. And of course, we got sniped from Matthew Stafford. So, man, this has been a really tough draft in terms of some of our guys that we were hoping for getting taken right before we have a chance to, here I'm looking at Ryan Tannehill, I'm looking at Joe Burrow. I like both these guys. Who do you have ranked higher? Probably Joe Burrow. I think they're going to pass the football a little bit more. That's the logic there. Here, I'm looking at running backs. I guess we kind of have to address that position. Man, I really don't like anyone here. Naheem Hines, maybe, in a half-point PPR scoring. But I'm just going to stay true to our strategy and go best player available. I think that is Antonio Brown at the wide receiver position. And I feel good about that pick, getting some depth here. So we've got pretty much our roster taken care of. We've got quarterback Joe Burrow. I will probably more than likely get a backup quarterback just to be safe. Wide receivers, hey, if you're looking for a strength of this team, it's wide receiver. Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, Robert Woods, look at the bench, Sutton, Antonio Brown. And running back, hey, we got Christian McCaffrey. That's awesome. He's probably everybody's RB1 across all formats, like I mentioned before. Then there's a drop-off, Myles Gaskin, so that is tough. We're going to get knocked some points for that, definitely. Probably at the end of the day, we could have gone someone like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire instead of going Michael Thomas in the 3rd round, something to point out. Then Robert Woods is our flex play. So again, some really good depth there. I was really hoping we could get TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert instead, the guy that we settle for. And at this point, pretty much everybody has gone on auto pick. But I do want to finish running through our team. And here, let's quickly show you a big look at the roster, just kind of being able to see it a little bit more easily. Cortland Sutton, Antonio Brown on our bench. So we got to draft some running back depth here with these last 2 picks. I could go, quarterback as well. But the kind of takeaway message here with what we saw in this draft, I think all things considered, because we did get sniped a lot and there was just some savvy drafting, no other way to put it, we did the best with what we had. Again, I think you could argue whether we should have taken Michael Thomas in the 3rd round, but afterwards, after kind of having that solidified, I like the way we went with our selections. But overall, I do believe we could have put together a better roster. I've put together better rosters with the first overall picks in other mock drafts. But again, every time it's going to be different depending on the people you're drafting with. So just keep that in mind. But all in all, I don't mind the team. I wish we had better running back depth, definitely. But Christian McCaffrey allows us to, go more wide receiver heavy. So if you just decide to go in this type of direction where after you get your stud running back going wide receiver heavy in the 2nd and 3rd rounds, just be prepared for a situation like this. That could be, again, the takeaway message there. But let's quickly queue up some players. I imagine that at this point in time, you've seen probably defenses and kickers go off the board. Yep, that is the case. So a little bit underwhelming, but them's the breaks. Now let's quickly go and look at some other running backs that are still on the board. And Gus Edwards still there. Devin Singletary, Latavius Murray, Naheem Hines, probably could be someone that I go with. Jamal Williams is still there. I'd probably go Jamal Williams again, just based off everything that we're hearing coming out of Detroit. Gus Edwards could be a great value if something happens to J.K. Dobbins, but, again, you could say that with any backup running back, really, Tony Pollard, if anything happens to Ezekiel Elliott. So it's tough to think that way sometimes. So for that reason, I'm just going best, player available, highest upside. I think that's probably, again, Jamal Williams, Naheem Hines. Let's quickly look at wide receiver as well. If there's anybody that we're sleeping on, Marvin Jones is a good value. Other players, Darnell Mooney, probably John Brown. Nobody here otherwise am I in love with. Just scrolling down the list, couple guys like an Elijah Moore, a Terrace Marshall Jr., some rookie wide receivers that you need things to go their way. They've got other more experienced veterans ahead of them that are going to limit their upside. So for that reason, we can't justify drafting them at this point in time. And again, we've got some great wide receiver depth. So I'm probably going to go quarterback and running back here. But go figure, we've had some other backup quarterbacks be drafted. You've had a Ryan Tannehill, you've had a Tom Brady be drafted, so Baker Mayfield now goes off the board. Let's see what we might do here. Matt Ryan is an option. I guess we could pair him up with Calvin Ridley. But again, Julio Jones isn't there. That's a hit for Matt Ryan. I've got Joe Burrow ahead of him. Ryan Fitzpatrick is intriguing, but does he play the entire season? We don't know. So that's tough. Deshaun Watson, hey, if he plays this year, he's a good value, but we can't say that for sure. So we're probably just going to go running back here, and hey, we could use it. So I'm probably just going to go with Gus Edwards with our first pick, and then afterwards, Jamal Williams, like I mentioned. But all in all, I probably got to give this roster a C+ type of grade, B- grade. Again, let's quickly look at it. Joe Burrow, Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, McCaffrey, Gaskin, Goddard, Woods, Sutton, Antonio Brown, Gus Edwards, Jamal Williams going running back with these last 2 picks to get depth there. But it could have been better. So for that reason, again, probably a C+ type of grade. We've got great depth at wide receiver, but there is room for improvement at the other positions. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. And again, a quick reminder, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. All the details in the description. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.